everybody. My name is Leslie Pyle, and I'm the founder of HireMyMom.com. And today, I'm super excited to have one of our own, Breanne Gunn, who started out on Hire My Mom. We think it was around 2010 as a job seeker, and she has grown an amazing business. So I'm here to let her share a little bit about her journey and tell more about what she's doing and how she got started. So tell us a little bit about you, Bree.
Thank you so much for having me. I am a copywriter and marketing expert, and I, um, started with Hire My Mom back in 2010, and my business has just accelerated since then because Hire Mom gave me all of the opportunities and all of the clients that were able to propel me to where I am now. So it was a good match.
Yes, I love that. So it's hard to believe that was about probably 11 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Hire My Mom was started 2007. So, about 14 years ago. So you were kind of in on the front end of it all.
Yeah, I remember my mom calling me and telling me that there was an article, I think it was in Real Simple,
Uh-huh.
about y'all. And I was like, oh, there's no way that's real. That's totally a scam. It's one of those advertisements or whatever. But
Right.
I was slightly desperate. And so I went online and found you, and I was like, oh, this is a legit website. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Signed up and found my first job within 30 days. Like, it was just an unreal experience. Like, I can't even put it into words.
Wow. That's so awesome. So what motivated you to start working from home or start your own business?
You know, I when I got pregnant with my son, I realized that the stress of going to work, I was working at a law firm, it was high stress. I didn't want to, I could have, I didn't want to juggle the stress of that job and being a new mom and, having to put my kid in daycare and all of the things that come with it. And so when my mom sent me that article, it was kind of one of those, cross your fingers and wish really hard and hope that this is
Yeah.
real and it's going to work. And it did. And I found 3 clients that I actually worked with for over 5 years,
Oh, wow.
who are just fantastic people, and I still keep in touch with them. And sadly, I outgrew the work I was doing for them,
Mhm.
which is really common once you hit your stride.
Right.
But yeah, it was just that motivation to really want to be there for my kids. My mom was home with us. She
Mhm.
substituted, but she was able to, go on all our field trips and come pick us up if we were sick at school and those kinds of things. And that was really important to me, that I be able to do that for my kids too.
Right. And that was my whole reason and catalyst behind starting Hire My Mom, because I knew as a mom how much that meant to me to be at home early on with my kids, and knew that there were so many other moms that wanted that same ability. So yeah. And my oldest is now 25. So been at this at a while, and I'm still so passionate and so love hearing how moms are finding ways to work from home, and obviously now with the crazy world we're living in, remote work is becoming even more common. So, I mean, that's good news for moms looking for
It
jobs
is
at home.
huge.
Yeah. So how did you find your first client? Like, was your background matched with it, or did you do something totally different?
So I have a background in office administration. That's kind of where I was looking, because I knew that I could translate very easily what I was doing in the law office as a paralegal over to working online. And I adjusted my resume to highlight the technological pieces that I understood: Word, Excel, Office Outlook,
Mhm.
all of those pieces, and really adjusted the language so that it fit with the online space versus the real world space, because there are 2 different languages. And started applying for anything that was email checking, copywriting, admin assistant. And I think I applied for 10 or 15 different jobs. And um, my first interview, they loved me, but didn't hire me. And then they called me a week later and said, hey, the gal we hired who has all of this online experience doesn't have time for us.
Oh,
Would, are you still interested? And I said, yes. And I worked with them for 5 years.
okay.
And so I think your site is really unique in that it can match people who are solo and can do the work and work, between part-time and full-time
Mhm.
in a way that no other site can,
Yes.
if that makes sense.
Mhm. Yes, I agree. That's awesome. So what tips do you have for resumes and follow-up? So that person that's signing up, or maybe they've been on for a while, but they're not getting any traction. So what suggestions do you have?
So the first thing I would do is I would take a look at your resume, but I think more important than your resume is your cover letter.
Mhm.
You want to target your cover letter to the actual job that you're applying for. So you want to have an individual cover letter for every single position. And you can also have multiple iterations of your resume,
Mhm.
which I think is really important. I had a resume that highlighted my office work. I had a resume that highlighted my writing skills. I still have a resume that highlighted my administration experience and my sales skills. So depending on what the person wanted,
Mhm.
that was really important. Nowadays, it's more common for them to say, send me an email with this font and this size and whatever. That bothers me. I think it's a little much, but I understand the need for it. So, follow the instructions. If they say send an email with this subject line and you don't, you're not going to get an interview. You're not going to move forward.
Yes.
You know, read through things more than you think you need to. Read that same job ad 4 or 5 times to make sure you're not missing anything. Get a friend to double check it for you. um, just being really diligent about understanding the language of the online world can make a huge difference in your resume itself too. Highlighting those transferable skills, if it's words per minute typing, if it's that you have technology experience,
Mhm.
putting those at the forefront of your resume and highlighting those, and then going into your actual work history, because most of us who are in the hiring sector
Mhm.
are looking for skills. We don't particularly care that you worked at, Culver's for 10 years or whatever. We want to know if you can handle the workload and the technology that we're using to do it online. So
Right.
highlight those at the front of your resume, shift things around,
Yeah.
and that should help.
Yes, and I know a lot of people already know this, but Canva has some great templates too for resumes, and there are some that have the little like sidebar that says proficiency, so you can put Canva, Slack, Trello, and then you could put some of them have like a little block, 1 to 5 blocks. So if you know it through and through, you're 5 blocks. But if you're only kind of familiar with it, you might be a 1 or 2. But yeah, I think those are very important for people that are looking for specific skills. And I can attest to the fact that, some of these businesses do say, your subject line needs to say hallelujah or some, random thing.
Yeah,
They
or
want to,
I'm your star or whatever it is. Like,
yes,
don't game the system. Don't try and be smarter. They literally will. I've done it. I've been on the hiring side.
yes.
If you don't follow my instructions, I don't care who you are. I'm not, because I assume you can't follow instructions at
And
all.
you're not paying attention to detail. And that's very important to a small business owner, is that you're going to be detail oriented no matter what the job is. They don't want things falling through the crack.
Right.
So I've seen that be very important. And I think too, some of these employers, if they're not familiar with HireMyMom, if they've posted, let's say on Indeed in the past, they might have gotten 900 applicants in one day. I've heard stories of where they get
Yep.
900, and who can go through 900 applications, especially a small business owner. An HR person would have a hard time doing that, but especially a small business
Yeah.
owner, that's not their dedicated job, is hiring. So, that helps them weed out when they're on the huge platforms. But when you're on HireMyMom, one of the advantages is you're not competing with thousands of people. Some jobs will have 50, some will have 5, so your odds of getting hired are a lot quicker and better on a smaller niche boutique platform. So that's one of the advantages too.
And I think that the quality of businesses that use HireMyMom tend to be a little bit higher than ones that go after like Indeed or Flex Jobs or those other websites. Because I've used a bunch of different hiring sites over the years. I've been in business for 11 years, and the quality of project that I find on HireMyMom is always leaps and bounds above the other sites.
Mm. That's good to hear.
So
And you've
yeah,
been on both sides. So you've been
I
able
have.
to experience it as a job seeker and as a business. So that's really valuable. It's advice and insight for people looking.
Mhm.
Um, so what was one of the biggest lessons you learned when you were pitching for gigs and applying for jobs?
So one of the biggest things that I learned was you want to treat people online the way you would treat them in person. Send a thank you after you get the interview. Follow up. If they give you an email,
Mhm.
send your resume, do everything they tell you to do, and then follow up if you haven't heard back. treat this like you would treat applying anywhere else,
Right.
because the same rules apply. People love getting thanked. People love getting, if you can get their address, send them a snail mail thank you. I've actually asked, I know this is kind of awkward and weird, but I'd really love to send you a thank you note. Would you mind giving me your address? And people were like bowled over by the fact that I wanted to actually handwrite a thank you.
Right.
And I can't say that's what got me the job,
Mhm.
but it definitely didn't hurt.
Right.
So just treating people like people is the key. And on the hiring side, when you're going through having, don't go overboard with the rules that you have, because it can be daunting and it can actually deter people from applying.
Right.
If you want 18 different fonts and 7 different colors and bold and
Yeah.
titles and all these things, Hire My Mom, it's a spot where the real world, the desk jobs and things coalesce with the online space. And so it can be really overwhelming because it's their first foray.
Mhm.
So making sure that you simplify the process on both sides is going to
Yes.
be the give you the best results.
Yes. And we've had that too, where the business makes it so impossible to apply for the job that they get very few candidates because they want, a sample of this and a sample of that, and the cover letter to be a book. And, so yeah, there's a healthy balance in there with looking and weeding people out at the front end versus making it so difficult that nobody wants to apply.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's switch hats. As a business owner, when you're posting a job, what do you look for in an applicant?
So I'm looking for someone who has the basic skills that I need. So if I say I need someone who has copywriting experience, I want to see copy experience in your resume. I want to see you showing me, demonstrating that you can write by not only your resume, but your cover letter needs to be impeccable. Get Grammarly, spell check your stuff.
Mhm.
Don't send me a halfway done anything, because I'm going to assume that you can't really write.
Yeah.
If I'm hiring for an admin assistant, highlight that admin assistant experience in your cover letter and in your resume. Mirror my language.
Mm.
One of the greatest form of flattery is copying. And so when you mirror the language used in the ad on your application and in the resume, you stand out because you paid attention.
Yes.
And I know you digested what I put out there, and I feel far more comfortable talking to you.
Mhm. And I always recommend too, like go to Brianna's website if you're applying for a job with her and get to know her, get to know who she is, not just as a business owner, but if she tells you a little bit about her as a person. She loves snow skiing. Maybe you find that in common and you go, I love snow skiing too. Our family went, just some little tidbit that go, wow, she actually read my bio, or she went to my website, or she read that blog that I wrote about Slack and why it's my favorite tool. Whatever it might be, just that extra 10 to 15 minutes stands
Yes.
out big time.
Hugely. Yeah. Especially because you got to remember, people are going to read your cover letters first.
Mhm.
So you want to front load your cover letter with your skills, what
Right.
they asked for, but you don't want to say, per your ad, you asked for XYZ. You want to say, I have 10 years of experience handling XYZ.
Mhm.
In fact, one of my favorite jobs was, use the cover letter to not only show me that you researched me, but give me a little bit about you. Give me a little bit more insight than you normally would, because as small business owners, our teams are often like family.
Mhm.
And so I need to get to know the human being behind the resume and the cover letter. And if you can help me accelerate that process, you have a far more likely chance of getting the interview and getting hired.
Yes. And I want to reiterate the fact that you said, you had at least like 3 different versions of your resume. If you're only looking for copywriting, you may not need to do that. But if you're multi-talented and you do copywriting and you do admin assistant and you do social media, if you're one of those people that wears a lot of hats and loves doing that and wants that, to follow all of those, then definitely tailor resumes for those specific jobs. Because if you're sending and I've had this happen, I'm sure you have too. If I'm looking for a social media manager and you send me your admin assistant resume, it's gonna not hit well, because you might bury down there at the bottom that you did social media, but if the main thing shows admin, you might still get considered, but not as likely as if that resume is tailored specifically for that role.
Yeah, you got to remember, like you said, some applicants or some jobs have 5 applicants, some have 50. When I have used Hire My Mom to hire, I typically get between 20 and 50 applicants.
Mhm.
And that's a lot for a person to go through. So make it easier on us. Highlight your skills at the front. Even if that means that you need to only feature 1 or 2 jobs on your resume that highlight your experience, and the others are worked at McDonald's from this to this, worked at Barnes and Noble from this to this.
Yeah.
Highlight those skills. I would rather see a resume full of the skills that you have
Mhm.
with just dates of jobs being
Right.
held than a resume that gives me full details on every single job you've had. I don't want to look over more than a page.
Right.
Um,
Because
I
you're
don't
looking
think
at,
it's
you
necessary.
know, you could be looking at 40 or so resumes
Yeah,
and
don't send me your CV. Tailor it for the job.
yes.
I even tailored like my copywriting resume even further for someone who wanted like, um, I worked for StubHub for a while and writing all of their artist features.
Um,
So I got to write about, research and write about Billy Joel and Garth Brooks and Kiss and all of these people that do concerts, which was really, really cool. But I tailored my resume to talk about the concerts that I'd gone to
mhm.
and got really into where they were going, and it got me a job.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid, even if you're laser focused on one talent, to tailor your resume and your cover letter for that job specifically and highlight certain things, bold things, italicize things I need to look at, make it easy for me to skim.
Mhm. Yeah, 100%. And I always tell people, they're like, I don't have time to do that. And I'm like, well, then you don't have time for a job because a job's going to take time and looking for a job takes time. And those that really put in this effort up front get hired a lot more quickly than those that are throwing resumes left and right. I mean, you could be on Hire My Mom a year and never get a job because you're just throwing spaghetti at the wall, like they say. Or you could be on Hire My Mom for 2 weeks or a month and get hired. You kind of have to decide, how serious are you? How badly do you want it? And how much time are you
Yeah.
going to invest in it?
Well, on the job seeker side, I have never had to look for more than 30 days on Hire My Mom because I understand the process from both sides. And because I tailor everything, I'm hyper focused. I'm not just going to send a generic resume out. I only apply for the things I really want, and I put the effort behind it.
Right. And that makes all the difference. I hope
Mhm.
every
It does.
single Hire My Mom job seeker watches this video because this is golden for those, and every now and then you get somebody that says, I've been with Hire My Mom for a year and I haven't got a job. Well, let's see what you've done. I don't always do that with them, but most likely they're not putting forth the effort that they need to, or they have zero skills and they're not doing anything to get the skills they need.
Right.
So,
And it doesn't take much. You can save all of those edited resumes and adjusted and recycle them. Don't make this more work than it needs to be.
right.
Create a job seeking folder on your desktop that you can easily access and use. Load those resumes into the Hire My Mom database so it's faster and easier for you to apply for stuff.
Right.
And then follow up. I have had people's resumes or people's applications accidentally go to spam. I didn't see them and they were perfect. And because they followed up, I went and looked for it.
Yes.
It you never know what's happening. Maybe a family, something happened. It always pays to follow up, because the
Yes.
people that follow up are going to follow up once you hire them,
Mhm.
and they're going to be on top of it.
Right. Yeah. That's something I always hound on too is follow up, within a week or no longer than 2 weeks. Cause some of these jobs they're hiring right away because they're a
Yeah.
small business and they need somebody like yesterday. So,
Yeah.
but follow up, I've heard stories too. People follow up. The person, like you were saying earlier, they didn't work out and you're now top of the mind because you followed up and they look at your resume. Oh yeah, she could do it.
Mhm.
So follow up is key as well.
Yep.
So do you have any tips on how other tips, we've already given several, on how someone can better sell themselves?
I think the best way to sell yourself is to remember that you're human and they're human too. And so talking about why you want to work for them, why you're passionate. And if you're applying for something that's a little bit out of reach, don't assume they're not going to hire you. I've hired people who needed training, and they've turned out, I've been working with the same VA for over 3 years, and she's incredible. She didn't have a lot of the skills I needed, but she literally said, I am willing to learn any system that you put in front of me. And she has paid me over in spades over and over again, learning things that we needed to get done. So don't be afraid to pitch yourself for things that might feel a little bit out of reach. You never know when someone is willing to put the training behind you.
Yes.
And it's job seeking and job, and being the hiring side, they're both work. They're just different forms of work. And so if you don't have the wherewithal to sit down and actually do the work, you probably need to go get a regular 9 to 5 job.
Mhm.
Because when you're working from home, regardless of your position, you don't have a manager breathing down your neck. You don't have to punch a time clock. You need to be able to manage your own time. And Hire My Mom is a great test of your mettle in that way. You have to be checking it daily. You have to be sending out things quickly. You have to be on your feet and ready to talk. And it shifts the way you think if you actually put the effort behind it. So don't be afraid to apply for things that are a little bit out of reach, and don't be afraid to make the job seeking process practice for the actual job.
Yes, I agree. And that's something else I recommend too. Like if there's things in that job description that you don't know, you can also do a quick YouTube to get a little bit familiar with it and then reassure them that you learn quickly, that you're eager to learn, that you're willing to learn. Reassure them that even if you don't have every skill, that you're a quick learner, you want to learn, and those sorts of things. I think that goes a long way as well.
Yeah. And I've as a job seeker, when I got hired to check email, it very quickly turned into writing blog posts and managing their CRM and doing a whole bunch of things I didn't know how to do. But because I showed them I was a quick learner and I was willing to do whatever it took to make sure things were done the right way,
Yes,
they kept me on
right,
until I shifted what I was doing and kind of phased myself out on my own.
right.
Um, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Those are super awesome tips, Brie. I appreciate that. And I know anybody that's watching that's looking for work will really appreciate too. So, any other final thoughts on that, on the
if
whole?
if you're looking for a job and you haven't thought about online yet, go to Hire My Mom. You're going to be shocked. Seriously. Like
Oh,
I I've been in business for 11 years. I still go back to Hire My Mom. Like, oh, I could use another client here. Or, oh, I wonder who's, sometimes I just go look just to see who's looking for,
yeah,
for, because I have friends, or,
right.
it really depends. So don't let online work scare you. It's really fun. It's very rewarding. And when you go through a boutique system like the Hire My Mom, family, you get that support that you need to get to where you want to go. And you're helping out small businesses, which is always a good thing.
Yes, I love that. Okay, so tell us a little bit about your business and how people can learn more about you and what you do.
Sure. I am a copywriter and marketing expert, and I run a company that helps entrepreneurs and solopreneurs with their content marketing. And you can find me at my website, breannegunn.com, or on any social channels at the Breanne Gunn.
Okay,
Yeah,
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Bree. This has been so awesome, and I
thank
just can't
you.
wait for our audience and hopefully beyond to learn from you and the insight and expertise that you have.
I'm really just fangirling just a little bit because I absolutely love you guys, and I'm just thrilled that I get to do this. This is fun for me. So thank you.
Thank you.